Hello, ladies. We have a beautiful conversation, Debra and I, for you around one of the most potent, mysterious or mystical, and delicious practices that women have just for themselves. And that is, in case you haven't guessed it, the jade egg practice. Hi, Debra.
Hi. I love this topic today. I think we're going to share a lot of super helpful various exercises.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to introduce everybody. I want to introduce Debra to everybody. Debra Wilder is a meditation teacher trainer and has been teaching Tantra for over 10 years. She focuses on practices for solo before moving on to partner practices. She previously worked as a certified dating coach in Silicon Valley. She currently lives in Florida, USA. Okay, so in case you have been following our interviews, this is the 5th interview / podcast / discussion. And today we actually picked something just for the ladies. So I want to read to you the structure. It's really simple, and then we get into it. And as always, we'll be looking forward to your comments, questions, anything. So the first thing we're going to address is, what does this practice mean, or what does it entail? What does it look like? Secondly, what are the benefits? And third, how we can help women who are seeking to learn about or get better at this practice. So with no further ado, Debra, let's look at what does this practice mean, for at least from each one of our perspectives.
Okay, let's start with you, because you're the more knowledgeable one. And you should let people know that you learn this more from a traditional background rather than the more new agey one.
First of all, the practices that I do are all around sexuality. And when I got introduced to the jade egg, it was during my Tai Chi training a few years back. My teachers here in Romania, they came from a lineage, not the Mantak Chia, it's a different lineage, the lineage that was carrying the traditional Chen style Tai Chi. That's a very closed lineage as far as I've been told, and the knowledge was passed down really highly selective to people. And my trainer and my teacher, she did at the time, she was in her 16th year of Tai Chi. And aside from Tai Chi, she was doing women's practices, women's health practices. Yes, she was also trained into the jade egg practice. And she did one of the most awful things, no, not awful, but one of the difficult things that I can think of. When I approached her about the jade egg, because she was not openly discussing this with the ladies in her Tai Yin, that's what she called it, the big yin or the great yin, the women's department. I approached her about the jade egg practice, and she said, yes, but in order to get to that, you have to, 3 years, you're not going to do it. For 3 years, you're going to do other practices. And then when I tell you, you start doing it.
Oh.
That was the biggest torture ever. But her reasoning behind it was that if you just want to stick up, I'm sorry if my language is not the best one, but stick a jade egg into your vagina and move it up and down or whatever else you're thinking of, then you don't need anything. You can just do it on your own. If you want to do this practice in the most powerful way, meaning actually have your body understand what is going on, intuitively use there are days when you shouldn't, and I'm not talking just the menstruation days. So basically you need to listen to your body wisdom, especially your pelvic floor wisdom. And that's why she had me and anybody who wanted to do this with her, 3 years, no practice. We were doing other exercises like opening the hips and the entire pelvic floor, mobility, activating our chi, as she said it, and just doing other practices to connect to our pelvic floor. Because a lot of women, and that's one thing that is worth to mention here, they don't have a connection to their pelvic floor. We spend so much time in our heads. Traditional or mainstream education doesn't really focus so much around our body. Maybe it'll start in the future. So we really need it, and that was her entire approach. You need to develop your body's intuition and wisdom, awaken it, and connect to that part of your body. And then you start doing the actual Jade egg practice, which was not just a physical thing. It had many layers to it. So that was the lineage and the origin and the little torment that I went through.
Torment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did not start my Jade egg, Yoni egg program brand new. I had been doing Qigong, which is similar to Tai Chi, and I had already become a Qigong teacher level 4. And before I started with Jade egg, I was actually doing their Benoit balls, which are these 2 very tiny balls made of steel, and you're supposed to try to move them around. But the main thing is I already had practice of being grounded, activating my chi. So I don't know how to talk for beginners, but I do know many friends and other students in real life that started straight as a beginner, new to it. So I think it is possible. And of course, the traditional medicine, at least in the US, physical therapy, they have, not the Jade egg, but they have physical therapy instruments for doing these practices. So even they believe in some of the things we're going to talk about today, doing practices. But I think they're very important for everyone. But yeah, maybe we'll talk about some of the times and being intuitive with the body.
One thing that I'd like to mention is that, especially for people in the US, I know that over there, there was a lot of controversy around the Goop platform, which was promoting Jade eggs. And the fact that they weren't teaching women, they were just selling the eggs. And a lot of people, especially OBGYNs, got triggered. I also have seen, at least around Facebook, I've seen at least one OBGYN who was speaking for the Jade egg practice because she was actually using it. And there's another thing that I'd like to mention. People fight or critique the Jade egg practice as the egg itself is not necessarily the most hygienic accessory to use. But I've never seen people criticizing mainstream commercial sex toys and accessories which are sold everywhere online. Not all of them are the most hygienic, and not too many stores, at least not until recent years, were also training their consumers, okay, how to use them, how to take care of your tools. So this was something that, but just because Goop promoted a tool and people all of a sudden they got triggered, but nobody looked at the entire market. So when you decide to critique something, either you critique everything out there that is worth critiquing, or just, take level it somehow.
Yeah, it's because they said it was a health tool. So in the US, anytime you're talking about health benefits of anything, you can be sued. So they had to pay out millions of dollars. But yeah, meanwhile, other companies are selling sex tools that they don't fully educate women that you have to clean properly every single time, and other things along with it. It's just because they call it a sex tool and not a health tool.
Yeah. So where I'm from, in my country, the Jade egg did not come to me from the Goop platform. It came, again, from my Tai Chi teacher.
Yeah.
She worked with the lineage, and I know that a lot of tantric and yoga teachers also speak of this, because there's also in the Hindu tradition, not the just Taoism, not that tradition only. And I think there are other cultures out there who have used the Jade egg or something similar to that. So before we jump at it, or I'm just making sure that I cover all bases, let's look at it from a grounded way. there are many purposes to it. And also there's a right way to do this, just as with anything. And there's also a very careless way to do this. We're not going to go down that path here. Okay, so now what does the practice mean? In my case, as I teach it and as I've learned it, it is a practice that helps women to connect with their sexuality, ground it, especially their impulses. In the live events that I did before the pandemic hit, at least one of the women who came, and she had a lot of sexual impulse activated, so her libido was really high. She was not dating anybody at the time, and she was one of the best examples of how she grounded all the impulses that she had as she was going about, outside in the city. She saw a guy that maybe she found a bit attractive, and how annoying it was for her to be stricken by all those physical reactions, like in a place where maybe she didn't want to have them. Other women, they weren't grounding, they were just connecting with their vagina. A lot of women that I had in my practice didn't really have a strong connection to their pelvic floor, muscles, sensations, just feeling into that part of the body, and having some positive emotions around it, and positive or constructive or helpful or honoring dialogue around that part of their body. So there were a lot of psycho-emotional aspects that were included just by doing a practice in a group of women and following a certain, how do I say this, workflow around it, because you don't just do it like that. So that's how I saw it, as a grounding tool for your sexual expression, as a connection tool for your pelvic floor and this part of your body, which is involved in your sex life. How is it for you? Like, how would you define?
Similar. Also, I come from the Tantra perspective of this, and anything else we do around practices is to increase the energy prana that we have, but increase that energy and then move it up the spine. A lot of the exercises that we do, are pulsing or shooting the energy up our spine, head, or maybe sometimes we circle energy. And that not just increases energy, moves energy, but it makes you more in tune with your pelvic floor area and your entire body. So the main thing would be, be more in tune, which of course leads to bigger, better orgasms, loving our body more. I know for myself, I've been moving a lot the last, most of this year, I've been moving a lot. And then my jade egg got stored random places because I've just been moving basically in luggage. But it's a tiny little egg. It got stored somewhere. I should have had it just in my toiletry bag. So it took a little while to find it. But I noticed like a huge difference in just being more, and I do other practices, but I noticed like, being less grounded, probably, less sexual, less energy. Like I even like probably less of a happy feeling in my yoni area. So then just, traveling around, not using it very much. And after that, years of having one, I noticed like how it was to live without it. And even just, of course, changing to be graphic, the tightness of my vagina. I already do yoga and pelvic floor exercises, and I do some without a yoni egg, but just not having the egg around has decreased my ability to tighten certain areas. And that's not just for a sexual partner. It's, other things, of course, that affects.
Well, for one, the pelvic floor muscle is the one that holds all our internal organs. That's where they are
Mhm.
sustained on and what they're sustained on. So it really does make sense. And it also helps with when we give birth. And a side note here, it doesn't help for us to overtrain, because I do know one woman who overtrained, and when she had to give birth naturally, she was so tight that she couldn't. So that's
Oh,
a
man.
possibility. So yeah, you got to do the entire training. So it's like any physical workout in a sense, like the physicality of it needs to be done completely. We're gonna talk all about that. But
But was she doing it while she was pregnant?
no, she had done it before because she found out about it.
And
She
it was,
did it, and she probably overdid it. And when this is what, nobody could say for sure why a woman doesn't dilate in the way that she needs to.
oh,
Maybe it's from the practice, maybe not. But somebody did made a remark about this, meaning, train your pelvic floor, but don't overdo it. And that's also extremely important to note. For instance, what the Jade practice is not for me, it's not about lifting as many kilos as possible or pounds. Apparently, this started with a Russian gymnast who, after she had given up the sports and she had given birth, her pelvic floor had become extremely loose. So she started to work out with weights also. And at a certain point, I found a video with her lifting what was it, 32 or 31 pounds,
oh,
which is a lot. Yeah, she did struggle to lift it. She couldn't stand on her own. So anyway, it was kind of crazy. And on that, there is another facilitator that many people know, got inspired and started to do things she lifts with her vagina. It was a marketing stunt for sure, but I do know we're
I'll
gonna,
let you keep talking.
yeah. So it was a marketing stunt for sure, and it helped a lot to promote the message to many people, but it's not every woman trains her vagina to be a weightlifter. And not every woman wants to, like there are some practices in Thailand to shoot stuff out of their vaginas. Okay, that's kind of a freak show if you ask me. And I did find also some videos on YouTube with women, Thai women, like I don't know what they were shooting from their vagina, but there were guys on the other side holding balloons and the balloons would just break. And I was like, I don't know what that woman was shooting that a air balloon broke, but I do know that not all women aspire to do that. And the guys present, they were like in a circus show, not with a woman that they would respect and they would want to be intimate with. And I think that's also important. The energy and the vibe and the approach, basically, or attitude that we bring to this practice says a lot about us and also about whoever's going to interact with us.
Yeah, that's what I've seen a lot of women and myself talking with men about this as it becomes perverse. So I almost think like you have to keep it private because it either comes perverse, they want to talk about it too much, or it becomes one more thing for them to like, oh, did you do your Jade egg so your vagina can get way tighter, rather than being all about the woman. So it's either they think we're a circus freak or we're doing it solely for them.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't just like a straight woman thing. Of course, all of these things are great for lesbian and queer women because of increasing sensitivity and healing and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into some of the benefits. Like I'm sure we've covered a few, but maybe we can go over them one more time. So,
yeah.
So from my side, it would be grounding in your pelvic floor and grounding of your sexual impulses. And the second one is actually connecting to this part of your body, activating blood flow in the area because blood flows wherever we move our muscles.
Mm-hmm.
And surprise, surprise, the vagina is actually a muscle. And also activating or sensitizing it. In fact, because if it's not touched in the inside enough, and for some women that is the case, then no sensitivity there. So that's also a practice to help women get more sensations. And it's not to say that this practice, just by doing it, not necessarily fully present, you're going to activate your vaginal orgasms and all of that. Those come with psycho-emotional awareness, connection to your sexuality, and so on. But sensitivity is definitely a benefit from doing this practice correctly.
And for me, all of those, as well as increasing pranic energy. After I haven't had kids, but I know this definitely works for people, having kids. So I go with the Western thing as well, of it increasing tightness of the vagina and sensitivity of the vagina after having kids. I'll do some practices even for the external. The egg can be used externally as well, yoni wise. So it increases the sensitivity and wetness of the entire area. But for me, it's mostly about energy and sensitivity.
So the last topic on our list was how we could help women who are either wanting to get introduced to this practice or who want to go deeper with it. And from my side, I would love to actually present a little bit about how I believe this is the naturally flowing way of doing this practice. And this is basically the structure that I also have in my programs, whether I do them live or online. Because it's a practice, you usually begin, like any practice, with an intro. And in this case, it's not just the physical preparation, meaning you have to cleanse the egg before you use it, obviously, but you also cleanse yourself. This is usually done with healing sounds, inner smile, setting an intention, or simply body connection. And that means you sit a bit, a few minutes maybe, to just feel into what is going on with your body, and also if it is open to the practice, because just because you want to doesn't mean that your body is actually in the place where it needs to do this. This one is more subtle. Maybe in the beginning it doesn't make sense, but if you start to ask yourself, okay, am I ready right now? Am I really, my body, is it really open for the practice? Then you have warm up, because the physical component is extremely important, and you don't just work out with it and you strain your muscles. So you have a warm up, an actual physical practice, which includes physical things, but also connecting, pauses to connect, to see what's happening in your body. And the physical exercises or routine varies according to your level of, fitness level, let's call it like that. If you're a beginner, you're going to see that your muscles will tire very fast. The more you do this practice, but in time, and the more you allow your muscles to recover after you've done one practice, that length of the routine is going to grow, because your muscles can take more practice, basically. And at the end, what you do is you first of all check to see, okay, the intention that I had, if I did put an intention, did I reach it? Or do I feel anything different in my body, physically, psycho-emotionally? So what happened? That's with awareness. From a physical perspective, you do a cool down, because your muscles were also involved. So they need to be stretched or touched in a way that is appropriate for that. And also because you've activated energy there, I do it the Tai Chi way or the Taoist way, you circulate energy. You need to, otherwise I remember when I was doing the live practice, once I actually forgot to do the circulation of energy. And a lot of the girls, women, when they got home, some of them couldn't fall asleep right away, and neither could I.
Oh,
And we were like, what happened? We did not
mhm.
circulate. We didn't do a cool down properly because we just got carried away with the discussion and conclusions and all of that. And the next time we met, we were really aware, okay, we didn't do a circling of energy last time, and some of us didn't get to sleep like until 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. That was not exactly great. So nobody's perfect. Sometimes you can overlook things, but the
Oh, yeah.
best way to do it, yeah, is also so to close it down properly. And in terms of
But that doesn't have to take very long, right?
no. Well, overall, the practice, sometimes it can take 20 minutes if you do it like this with warm up, practice, cool down. Sometimes in a group where you also take time to do feedback check-ins every now and then. So during the practice and then afterwards, it can take an hour and a half. Those are the events approaches. And so it varies. People also enjoy those. Obviously, you don't do something like that daily. We used to do it once a week. That was the frequency. And I would tell ladies, leave your muscles to rest. Don't overdo it. If you want to, every 3 days or so, you can do the warm-ups just to activate those muscles a bit, but that was it. So you don't have to take it like the pro daily workout way. And lifting weights, that's a discussion right there. But anyway, that's how I see it. That's my approach to it, first of all.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. For myself, it doesn't have to feel like an extra thing to do, because for me, I can incorporate it in something else, like make it a meditation. So if I don't have to worry about doing a separate meditation unless I have time. I can do meditation and this together. I'll also, when I feel like taking hot baths, when it's not hot in summer in Florida, I will do the exercises in a bathtub sometimes, not all the time. But I can still fit in the time to do it. But it's not, I don't like making something like this feeling like a chore. Maybe I have to schedule it, but I create the mindset, oh, this is something really good for me to do, like positivity around it. What if someone is doing the practices and say they're interrupted by a child or something and they have to stop suddenly? They can still, circle their energy or ground it later or quickly.
Yeah, circling the energy. I used to torture my ladies. I did it the very, very, I don't know, by the book, but you can also do it super fast. Like it can take you 30 seconds to less to circulate energy. It's important to bring awareness to it though. And yeah, you can also do it later. If your kid walks in on you and you have to stop, maybe you don't have the time to take out the jade egg, but if you're going to go to the bathroom, eventually you're going to have to take it out or it will come out. But when you remember, oh, I have to circulate the energy, you can also do that. That's why I don't really encourage people, women basically, to do this too often. It's like, don't torture yourself. If you don't have like an ulterior motive to reach a certain level of sexual and erotic consciousness, or you don't have something like that groundbreaking, you just want to ground your sexuality and you want to keep it in check or in balance or express it, so keep it flowing, take it lightly. Really, no need to burden ourselves with something when it's supposed to be beautiful, essentially.
Yeah, so what do you think about, because of when we used to meet people in person, many women would tell me they thought they could just pop it in there and like sleep or take a bath or watch TV or something and not actually ever do any exercises. They thought they got all the healing benefits by just popping a jade or rose quartz in there and never actually knowing how to use one. I don't agree with this. Maybe once in a blue moon, doing something like that. I think that's where a lot of the lawsuits happened is, yeah, if you leave something in there for 12 hours, possibly that's when you could get bacteria in. But for the most part, it's like just, yes, crystals have healing properties, but you can't just pop a crystal in there and expect magic to happen without intention and energy practices and muscle practices. That's my thought. What about you?
Before I tell you my thought, I'm really curious, what did you reply to the ladies when you heard something like that? What would you say to them? I'm super curious.
I don't remember because it's been a couple of years at least now.
Okay.
I probably said something rude because I'm an Aries. And I was like, no, you have to do practices with that as well to be able to move the egg up and down, to feel different parts. I would say, like, can you feel your lower, middle, upper area of your vagina? Can you move it? And they would always be like, no, I can't even feel the egg in there at all. I can't tell if I'm squeezing. I would be like, well, what if you put a finger in there and then you try and see where you're squeezing? And then they would realize, oh, I don't have my vagina is totally loose.
Mm.
Like there's no tightness anywhere in there. So that would be it. I would encourage them to take a program or something to learn. And I would also hear crazy things about certain types of crystals, like even one girl who sells crystals is a crystal person. She's like, oh, what about getting a selenite egg? I love the properties of those. And I'm like, no, that's extremely dangerous. It's highly porous. It crumbles. A woman could have lots of shards of selenite in her vagina. And that was the one that was the most mind-blowing, to think about just going around choosing various types of crystals instead of rather sticking with a jade, of obsidian, or rose quartz. We're talking about jade egg today.
Yeah.
Going around just, women that own 5 or 10 different types of crystal eggs and they don't do anything other than just shove them up there.
Yeah. Basically what my teacher said, if you just want to shove an egg up your vagina, you don't need to. She said a rock, basically. You don't need to be trained. You can do that on your own. That was not something that she was encouraging. She was being a bit sarcastic. But so my take on this, first of all, is you don't overwork your body either. So the vagina is a muscle. From a physical perspective, if you keep anything on your body anywhere, and this is something that I've heard another teacher say, and actually it's Kim Anami, I liked her explanation. Imagine you have a dumbbell and you put it like right in between this part of your body, and you sleep with it the entire night. What do you think your muscles are going to look like in the morning? Even if you didn't work out, even if it's just half of, I don't know, kilo, which is what, 1 pound, I think. So even if it's a light one, after you spend all that time with it, what do you think your muscles are going to feel and look like? Nobody encourages that. So from a physical perspective, unless you fall asleep, not on purpose, but you just fell asleep with it, it can happen, or maybe you forgot it. Your kid walked in on you, forgot to take it out, and you slept with it. Mm-hmm. Okay, meaning it's understandable, but leave your muscles to recuperate themselves. But it's the purpose of it is just like with any other tools. You use them for the purpose of the practice, whatever your intention is, and then you take them out, cleanse them, and that's it. So that's from a
there's also the opposite of that too. So that is, you're never kind of working it out. I have also been where I was doing it more often. Like there was a period I did it every day for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. But mine got so tight, muscular, that I could forget about it and go use the bathroom, urinate, which should drop it out, and it wouldn't fall out. I would have to actively push it out or pull it out with a string or remove it.
Or scoop it out, yeah.
Just going and urinating, it wouldn't pop out. And I also think that's also not great because maybe the vagina isn't ever fully relaxing. It's been overworked a little bit.
That can be one explanation. For instance, in my personal situation, because I do a lot of movements with the egg, there's a way to insert it and it moves like 90 degrees and I can't take it out that way. And I've noticed that as I've done my practice along the time. So what I do, basically, I have to insert a finger and move it in the right way so that I can take it out. So that can also happen. It's not that your muscles are getting any tighter or your muscles are not relaxing. It's that it shifted and it's really hard.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's when it gets kind of tucked behind the cervix.
Mm-hmm.
But this would be like the bottom was very tight.
Mm-hmm. That's also
where it took extra effort to pull out.
Yeah, or scoop it out. That's what I do. When something's wrong in that sense, meaning it doesn't just flow out, scoop it out. And my teacher, basically, her approach was, okay, if it didn't come out on its own, what you need to do is relax and allow yourself to really relax your pelvic floor.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she encouraged women to not try this practice until 3 years of doing other practices to become fully aware of the pelvic floor. And one way to, as with any practice, when you're an athlete, you go for massage. And that's important because you need to relax your entire muscles. Pelvic floor massage and vaginal massage, basically yoni massage, that's also one of the benefits. And it does help if it's done like for the benefits of health. That's what it does. It relaxes your entire pelvic floor. And what I also need to stress out a lot, because I've been looking at this from all perspectives, our muscles are connected one with the other. If something happens with our hip flexors, with our glutes, with our lower back sometimes even, all the areas connected. And one tension from one part is all the muscles and all the joints, they interconnect. And that tension can transmit from one place to the other. So a lot of, for instance, in the dojo, in the women's practices, I have an entire week where we stretch quads, glutes, hip flexors, yeah, all of it. So we use also accessories. And now I also, thank God, I finally got a muscle scraper also. And I usually scrape the muscles around, not my pelvic floor, but tension can also be transmitted from other parts. So if your body posture is not okay, if you sit a lot, sometimes it can lead to bad posture, muscle strain, nervous strain, and that also will affect how your pelvic floor behaves, reacts, what it does. So that's also important. And we need to look at it from all perspectives. And this is extremely valid for our lives because we sit a lot. So sometimes your muscles can get really tight because there's something happening, not necessarily that you've overdone this practice, but something from the vicinity that is not quite right. So massage overall, and then pelvic floor massage, also important. My take on it.
Yeah, that's all like super helpful. I hadn't thought of, when you take other people's programs or you're learning from a book, there's nothing that talks about all of that, like stretching the connected areas, and it just,
Probably,
I could.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say probably because they only take this as a sacred sexuality and divine practice, but they forget the grounded, palpable, bodily aspects of it, maybe, where they don't focus so much on it. They look at healing, they look at embodying your erotic and feminine, whatever, which is all great. And maybe my wording right now is not great in that sense, but the physical aspects are so important. So that's why probably not many women focus on that as well.
Yes. And since you mentioned Montauk Chia earlier, he probably him and his co-teachers probably don't mention it because they're assuming that people are doing the other Qigong practices with it. So they don't directly talk about it, say in the same book or course, or sorry, same book. But they're expecting people to be doing Qigong and moving energy throughout their legs, stretching their legs, walking, doing meditation, walks, all these different things, and getting massage, Chinese medical massage as well with it.
Yeah. Two women that I go to here, one is for belly massage and the other one was for pelvic floor massage. They were all trained in Dao Garden by Mantak Chia.
Dao Garden.
Yeah. So
yeah. And it's good stuff. It's just very time consuming. I would like to have everything in a smaller package, like how you get straight to the point and like everything that someone needs to do without missing anything important.
I don't know if life is supposed to be that way. I know that I've also struggled a bit with this, with the time consuming part, but I told myself, these people, we're people and we got to give our bodies the time they need.
Yeah, we have to spend a lot of, enough time.
But have some more grounded expectations somehow, as much as we can.
Yeah.
I didn't mean
but we don't have hours a day. I feel like some people that are living in like Thailand and Bali or they're self-employed. And when I was more self-employed, I had many more hours a day, but I see a lot of people that teach all of these energy practices and everything, they only work half the day. So they have, hours and hours a day to do all types of practices, but the majority of people don't have that much time.
That's why I don't encourage people to do it too often. Like once a week, I think it's quite enough. And really, you don't have to like burden yourself with all of these things. So my take is have a grounded perspective and take on it, essentially. So how we can help, aside from like presenting, here's one way to look at it and how to go about it, is also through this video, obviously. And we, if you want to do it together, have a discussion or a webinar actually on October 24th. I'm going to put on screen the time and everything, all the Central European time, all of that. And we can have a Q&A with the women who are interested. And so a Q&A around the practice, whether they've never done it before or they're doing it and they have some queries around it. And otherwise, we both have some programs we're going to link underneath in case you actually want to practice with us.
Yeah, so we can answer a lot of questions or give thoughts live. So I think that's a great idea, and it'll help get people more involved in starting a practice or restarting a practice. Because I think kind of accountability or community oriented stuff helps a lot.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it. Sometimes when we're doing it alone, and I've seen this also with myself, probably everybody's seen it, our enthusiasm goes down and it's hard to get it back up. So a support group really helps you to keep yourself motivated. All right, so I say we wrap this up for now and encourage ladies to drop questions, comments, and check out the link to the event. It's going to be on Zoom, and see you there and see you another
Yes.
discussion.
And I will add one more thing, and that is think about everything we talked about today and why you would like to start or restart or dive deeper into this.
Awesome. Ladies, see you soon. Bye.
See you soon.